So the question, though, and it is a serious one, is this. Is the government's heavy hand in government starting to pay off, or is it actually putting the brakes on the economic recovery? Dan Mitchell is senior fellow at the Cato Institute. Christian Weller is senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, associate professor for public policy at UMass Boston. Good to have both of you with us. And Christian, can you make the specific case for how government involvement has, especially on things like compensation, has specifically helped?
Well, I think the overarching picture here is the policy has really worked in the way it's supposed to work. And that is, if you look at TARP, for instance, it certainly brought back confidence and stability to the financial markets. And the stimulus package has ultimately brought back an end to the recession. And you see beginning blooms of business investment. Part of the picture, though, is that the processes that got us into trouble, that started with excessive risk-taking, are still in place. And we still need to have a conversation over corporate governance, over executive pay, over financial regulation. And so what the administration and the Federal Reserve are doing are some stopgap measures to prevent excessive risk-taking from taking place. And that's what you see around these compensation packages. They're very limited. They're stopgap measures. They're just placeholders, essentially, before both the Federal Reserve and the administration can turn their attention to financial regulatory overhaul, which is a necessary step next that needs to be undertaken.
Dan, do you think that President Obama has gotten it about right? He's needed to show he's involved to taxpayers. Certainly, he had to do a lot of this, right? Has he done that and but not gone too far?
Well, clearly what we saw at the White House today was a standard political dog and pony show that happens under Republicans, happens under Democrats. What matters is what's happening to the real economy. And let's hold up the president's own test to see whether it's worked. He said we had to do a stimulus to keep unemployment from rising to 9%, and that we would hold it at 8%. We're really actually now nearly 10%. We've lost millions of jobs, and all this demagoguery about Wall Street pay, I think, is a distraction from the fact that Obama is continuing Bush's failed policy of big government intervention, anti-free market policies. And hopefully the economy is going to recover in spite of those things. But I think the very clear case out there is that Obama's policies have delayed the recovery.
All right, now hold on, Dan. You'd have to then say that they didn't save any jobs. And we know they did, especially in education and places like that.
Oh, when the administration says that we've saved or created 600,000 jobs, when the actual data from the Department of Labor shows about 3 million jobs have been lost, this is this make-believe.
Well, they're saying it would have been 3.6 million. Let's just be specific.
Then why don't they say it would have been 20 million jobs lost? It's sort of like me walking across the street and saying I saved 10 lives because a car slowed down and it would have plowed into a sidewalk full of people.
Well, you might have, Dan. I don't know. Maybe you are that sort of a Samaritan.
Well, the issue here is Dan wants to do away with all sensible economic forecasting. I mean, there is a whole literature, there is a whole economics profession that we both belong to that does forecasting and counterfactual scenarios where we can calculate with some degree of certainty what kind of effects policy will have. And that is generally said, okay, well, in absent this policy, we would have lost more jobs. And then that's accepted economic theory. The other part is also clearly the recession was much worse than we had originally thought when these forecasts were made. And against those, I think we're doing a lot better than people had expected. So I think you need to be honest with the numbers, Dan. The other part is also the vast majority of jobs were lost before the stimulus went into effect. So clearly, the economy is doing a lot better than was expected, even when the stimulus was passed. We're creating a lot more jobs across the country. We're coming out of this recession. And you see this in the industrial production numbers. You see this in investment. Clearly, the private sector is turning around because the public sector.
You're stealing his 10 seconds.
Yeah. Christian's doing after-the-fact spinning. The White House said, this forecasting, that we would hold unemployment to 8%. And if we didn't do a stimulus, it would be 9, and now unemployment's nearly 10. Those are the real-world numbers that Christian doesn't want people to focus on. Big government didn't work for Bush. It's not working for Obama.
Gentlemen, have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you very much.